Here we go, the 64th country, Argentina. So from Puerto Montt in Chile, I arrived in Bariloche, Argentina. Like since I started to backpack traveling, every time when I walk on the road with my heavy backpack, I was always thinking, well, perhaps one day some vehicle pastor will see, wow, this tiny girl was carrying a huge backpack, and they wanted to offer me a lift. And this kind of imagination finally came true. Well, after I arrived in Bariloche, I was walking from the bus station to the hostel, and then just on the side, I just saw a minivan stopped, and they were waving at me, so I just went. Then they asked me where I needed to go, so I just showed them my hostel address, and then they just told me, vamos, like, let's go. So they dropped me in the guest house, and then it was fully booked, and then the staff was candid enough to put me in the staff room, and also they offered me discount. And after that, I moved to couch surfing, because normally when I hitchhike, I don't do couch surfing. But after I arrived, then I can send out a couch request. My host is a German, and then I did some hiking with him and two Argentinos. That was my very first time officially hiking. And as a beginner, I was always like slower than them, and they were very kind enough to wait me, very team spirit. And on the top of the mountain, we just were drinking mate tea. In the beginning, I don't feel very comfortable to share like the straw, but I get used to it. And after that, I tried the hitchhiking. One time, I went to a site, it's a cable car site. On the return back to town, I tried the hitchhike because waiting bus takes time as well. And then I hitchhiked one car, which is 3 youngsters. They are not going to town, but just halfway. I say it's fine. And after that, I continue hitchhike. It's like 2 elderly grandma. I feel so happy because it was my very first time to be picked up by grandmas. And then they dropped me in town in the supermarket where I needed to go. And after Bariloche, I hitchhiked to the south, and I was very lucky. Only just one car, because that driver is heading home. He's from HR10, and in the beginning I have no idea where is HR10, because I need to make my way to Calafate. But after that, he told me, and then I just checked. HR10 and Calafate is so close with each other. So I just followed him. And then it took like 2 days, 1 night to reach HR10. He was driving like most of the time, and I was making mate tea for him. And most of the time I ate empanada, because that's the easiest food you can get from the petrol station. And on the first night, he tried to drive overnight, but he asked me if I want to stop somewhere. I say if we can find some accommodation, I prefer to stay in the accommodation other than stay in the car with him overnight. So on the first night, almost midnight, we stopped in a guest house, and then there's only one room with 2 beds. So we shared one room but a different bed. And our room can't lock, so somehow I feel much more safer, because just in case I can still get out from the room. But nothing bad happened, and then I just arrived at HR10 safely. Then I stayed in the hostel in HR10, and after that I continued to hitchhike to Calafate. So I hitchhiked one 4W wheels car, and then it's like a man and a woman. And the woman told me when she was younger, she used to hitchhike from Calafate to the capital of Argentina, and then she stayed in the truck for like a couple of days. And then the first night when I arrived at Calafate, I stayed in the guest house, and then the second night I moved to my host from Couchsurfing, and then my host stayed in a shared apartment with 3 other guys. And the 4 of them were both hosts on Couchsurfing. So on the same time, there were perhaps like 9 guests in the house. So two French girls and me slept in the kitchen, and then it was our first time to sleep in the kitchen. We feel it's kind of funny. And then in Calafate, I visited the glacier via hitchhiking. So when I was going, I hitchhiked one car. It's a mother with an infant. Yeah, I feel just so interesting. And then after that, a father and a son just took me to the glacier place. And then on the return journey, everyone were queuing, not for bus, but for hitchhiking, because like in South America, everyone understand hitchhiking better. And then I hitchhiked one car. There are 3 guys from Chile. They were on their way back to Chile on that day. And behind them, there's another car, which was their parents. So I just hitchhiked back to Calafate. And after that, I need to make my way from Calafate to Rio Gallegos. And then on the day of hitchhiking, there's like some other people. Sometimes I feel it's like a compactor, so I was a little bit in a rush. So there's one car stopped, and the driver just stopped, and I get in, and I tried to have a conversation with him, and he seemed not willing to have a conversation with me. And then I asked him where he's from, is he a local, where is his family, and he just didn't respond. And after that, I was supposed to go to the highway, and then he chose another second road, which is less crowded and less vehicle and quiet. And after that, he told me he feels so hot, and he started to remove his clothes, and I feel just so weird. And then after that, he asked me if I feel hot. I said not at all. And then until he is topless, I just feel it's just too weird. I asked him to stop. And then I get out from the car. I just see like I'm a little bit far away from the highway. And after that, I just tried to grab my bag, and then he just showed me his mouth, like asking me for at least keys. And then I just feel so disgusting. Now after that, I just walk back, and then I didn't turn my head just in case he followed me. And then indeed he followed. And then I just remembered my drink bottle is still on the car, so I just told him agua. I said my drink bottle, so I got it back. And then eventually he asked me to go back to the car. I would never trust him again, so he drove away, thanks God. And after that, I was on the quite dusty road and walking. There's one truck just passed, and then I can't almost see anything because it was so dusty. And then one taxi stop asked me to get on, and then I just feel struggle because I just get over from the car, which the driver is with some other expectation. So I don't know, shall I trust people? But there's no other way to get out, so I just get on the taxi, and then I try to explain what happened just now. And then eventually I have to release my emotion. I was crying, and then the driver kind of getting what I was trying to say, and then he bring me back to the highway and then dropped me on the highway to let me continue hitchhike. And he's a taxi driver, he didn't charge me. And after that, I continued to hitchhike, and then I saw that taxi driver again, and he was carrying some passenger. I just waved at him. And then after that, one car just picked most of the hitchhikers on the way. And then he dropped me on the halfway, and then he checked another truck, which is Argentina uncle, and then he eventually dropped me in Rio Gallegos. And then in Rio Gallegos, I kind of get lost. It's so windy, there's dogs, and then I already had a bad day on that day, so I would just feel like so emotional. I was crying on the road, and now I was saying, okay, I'm going to see if anyone care about this stranger. And then eventually 2 ladies driven passed by and stopped and asked me. They don't speak English. We use Google Translate to communicate. And then they took me home. They cooked for me, offered me a bed. The next day they sent me to the road for continued hitchhiking. So eventually I hitchhiked one car from Rio Gallegos to Ushuaia. So I made it from Bariloche to Ushuaia all by hitchhiking, which is I feel very lucky because on total not more than